Hello friends, so I wanted to sit down real quick because I haven't actually filmed anything for this vlog yet. Author mentor match is something that I have kind of been keeping my eye out on for a while now. I've been aware of it for a while, and then last year it was in my mind but never really in a serious way because it was going to be a stretch for me to be ready, basically to the point of impossibility. So I didn't bother really seriously considering it or actually doing any work to prepare for that. But this year, I think, is my year. Throughout the fall, I've been checking in on the website to see when the 2022 dates are posted. And last week or the week before, I can't remember exactly what it was, the dates were posted. Unfortunately, I was smack dab in the middle of a freelance project that I was a little bit behind on. I still could not prevent my brain from becoming hyperfixated on the author mentor match process, so I stayed up like super late one night just getting a draft of my query down because I felt like I needed to like take action in that very moment. It was absolutely not necessary, but I have an extremely rough draft of a query. If you're watching this is obviously coming out a lot later than NaNoWriMo, but that is what we're in right now. Today is November 17th, and if you watched my NaNoWriMo vlogs, you know that I was very eager and very excited to jump back into Project Shadows for the next draft. And the reason for that is author mentor match. I didn't mention that in those vlogs because I kind of wanted to just focus on the work that I was doing. I say was in past tense as if they've all come out already, but I'm currently in the middle of filming those, so it should be present tense for me. That's a whole mess. But the long story short of it is I finally am able to start prepping for author mentor match. And the reason I think I'm ready to enter is because I noticed on a lot of the feedback I was getting and a lot of the stuff that I was planning to fix in this upcoming draft, there were very few like big picture items and a lot more very specific things that need to be fixed. And because of that specificity, I was like, okay, this draft is getting cleaner. We're getting to a point where it's littler and littler things that need to be fixed. And after this draft, I feel like the story will be fairly solid. And the author mentor match criteria is query ready, but not quite, if that makes sense. It's like a completed and polished manuscript that's just about ready to be queried, but it doesn't have to be exactly query ready, because part of the point of the mentorship program is to get feedback on your manuscript and your query letter, and it's sort of like a prep for that next step in the publishing journey. So we'll see what happens. I'm not like getting my hopes up on actually making it, but I just wanted to give it a shot and kind of document the process of doing that for you guys. This vlog is going to be going up regardless of if I actually get accepted or not. So the phases for everything that I need to do to prep for author mentor match, I've already organized and read through my beta reader feedback. I am currently in the process of reading through the draft myself to make any additional notes and then to figure out where those changes are going to be implemented. And then after that, we're just going to start the revision. The mentors for this year are not going to be announced until, I believe it said early December on the website, so I have no clue who I'm going to be submitting to yet. That will be something that I can look into and research in December. And then in January, I need to nail down my query letter and nail down a one-page synopsis, because those are the other two requirements. And ideally, I would also like to go over my first 50 pages before I submit as well, because you submit your query letter with a synopsis and your first 50 pages attached, and then from there the mentors decide on if they would like to take you on or not. So that is my game plan. I will keep you updated throughout this whole process of how I'm doing in my prep work and how the actual researching mentors and submission process goes, and then we'll find out together at the end of this if it works out for me or not. Hi, okay, I'm just here boiling some eggs for lunch. But apparently the round 9 mentors were announced like 3 days ago and I just genuinely didn't know. What is today's date? Today's November 19th. Today's November 19th, Friday. Dang, they must have literally dropped like as I was filming my first update. That's so funny. So that's fun and also really wonderful because I've already got done the amount of work that I wanted to do today for my read through of my draft to making notes for revisions. I wanted to get to page 205 and I'm at page 205, which means that I have the rest of the day to do whatever the heck I want to. I do have some like householdy stuff that I need to do, but that means that I can look at the mentor list and start sorting through it. Oh, it's happening. This is happening. It's a real thing now. I'm also watching AMM like videos, and there are very few. I need to dig a little deeper to see if I can find more because I've only found 4 videos not made by Alexa Dunn, which, I mean, that's a pretty obvious one. As soon as these eggs are done, I'm gonna be sitting down to sort through the mentor list and maybe start figuring out who might be a good fit. I mean, they don't have their wish lists up yet. I think that is supposed to come early December or mid-December, something like that. So there's no point in like really trying to nail down a list yet, but I am sure that I can at least narrow it down a little bit because like if someone's only written in published contemporary books, it's pretty obvious they probably won't be looking for fantasy. I just realized I totally forgot to say how I found out that the mentors were posted. Basically, I just like happened to get on the AMM Twitter just to check because I have my notifications turned off for Twitter because I hate Twitter, and so I specifically re-downloaded Twitter in order to follow AMM so that I can get updates, and I've decided that I'm just gonna go on there like once a day to check for any AMM updates. So I just happened to do that just now and saw that the mentor list has already been posted for like 3 days. Okay, the day is here. I just had to pop in real quick because I have seen on the Twitter that the author mentor match mentor profiles and wish lists are going live today. You know, I was trying to get through this revision so that I actually have something good to submit for author mentor match, but I might have to spend the rest of the day just going through all of the profiles and, you know, starting to get my mind wrapped around everyone that's involved this year. I could be patient, but my brain likes to just latch on to things and not let go, and I have a feeling that's what's gonna happen here. I literally actually just finished chapter 8 of my revision. I've been working to like the Pomodoro method, and I was taking my little 5-minute break in between and just got on Instagram, as you do, and saw Author Mentor Match's story, and I was like, oh, they're being active. So then I got on Twitter, saw they've posted like the final schedule for round 9, and also announced that profiles will be going out today. They haven't been posted yet, so I'm just gonna keep working on this. My goal for today was to get through chapters 8 and 9, so I have a whole chapter to go. And then I wanted to also get a little bit into chapter 10, but if I don't do that, that's not the end of the world. Knowing now that the mentor profiles will be up, I probably will just scrap the chapter 10 altogether today. In general, so far, like an update on my revision, I'm feeling really good about it, especially in Act 1. Like, there was just this amazing feeling of like everything coming together, and obviously it's still not completely perfect. Nothing ever is. Like, even if I ever get to the point where this is about to go to print and be on bookshelves, like, I'm still probably not gonna feel like it's perfect. It just feels like a book, and I fixed a lot of the problems that were bothering me so much about draft 1, and I'm just really excited for people to read it, which just feels really good because in my draft 0 and draft 1, I was willing to let people read draft 1, obviously, because I gave it to beta readers, but I was still like, well, I know there's some rough parts, like I know it needs some work, but now I'm just like genuinely loving the story and excited about it. And I hope that whoever I submit to for Author Mentor Match is just as excited about it as I am. I'm kind of working at breakneck speed in order to get this full draft done by the time that the submission window opens, because I do need the full draft edited. Like, even though you only submit the first 50 pages, they can request the full manuscript, and I need to have that ready just in case that happens. The priority is done. The first 50 pages are done. I think I'm well past that by now. But we need to reach the end. Right now, my hope was to have finished through chapter 12 by the end of this Wednesday, because on Thursday I'm flying out to Texas to spend Christmas with my family. I will be there from the 16th to the 26th, so that's just over a full week, which means that's a full week of not being here fully invested and focused on the revision. I'm still going to work on this while I'm in Texas, so I'm hoping to get through like 6-ish chapters while I'm there, 6 to 8, and if I'm able to do that, I should be on track to be finishing by the time the submission window opens, because after that I'll just be here working at my breakneck speed to get to the end. And then in January at some point I still need to write my query and my synopsis as well. So we've got a lot of things to do. It's definitely doable, and I'm really excited to have this kind of like external deadline, because in my writing I've never had an external deadline so far other than the things that I wrote for school. And I do think that I work fairly well under pressure. It depends on the type of pressure and how much of it there is, but something like this is huge to motivate me. I'm very grateful to have it as just like a set date to really drive me to get through this draft and kind of prove to myself that I can do an edit in this amount of time as well. Obviously, I don't think I would be able to do a first revision in this amount of time, but a second revision is doable. Under normal circumstances, I might have taken like 2 or 3 months to do it though, which I don't need. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm not super nervous yet about author mentor match. I've definitely had a couple moments of just being kind of like trying to remind myself not to get my hopes up, because I'm at a point where I'm confident in myself, I'm confident in my writing, I'm confident that with enough perseverance and enough time, I can publish someday. You know, a lot of publishing is simply just hanging in there for long enough, and I think that I have the stubbornness, perhaps, to do that for long enough so that I will be getting better and eventually something will click and my time will come. It's just a matter of, is this that time? Is that 5 years from now? I don't know. This is the first time that I've done something on the professional side of things, something that is taking a step down that traditional publishing path, and I'm just bracing myself for the rejection, because that's just how traditional publishing works, and I know a lot of that comes from the query trenches and the submission trenches. So I'm just trying to strike that balance within myself of being confident in my own work and being able to take joy in that, and also not getting my hopes up too high, but also trying not to assume failure when nothing has happened yet. The other thing is that AMM party starts tomorrow, which I will probably be participating in. I don't use Twitter, so I'm trying to decide if I participate in AMM party on Twitter or if I do on Instagram, or both. I don't know. If I do it on Instagram, I'm gonna end up having to post and then in the description be like, day 1 and day 2 or whatever, because I'm not gonna be posting something every single day on Instagram. That's just not my vibe. But on Twitter, that's easier to do. So that's a decision for me to make by tomorrow. I wanna participate though. I want to do everything that I can to get my name out there and kind of just like announce that I am participating in this space right now. And who knows? I have no clue if any of that stuff affects any of the mentors' decisions, but I don't want to not participate and that be the case. If I can be a name that people recognize whenever they're reading my submission, I feel like that can't hurt. Unless I was being like obnoxious online, but I'm not gonna be being obnoxious online, so. Today is December 29th and I have been hard at work getting this draft ready to submit. I made myself a list of things that I need to update you on so that I don't ramble on for like a million years. In my last update, I talked about how the mentor wish lists were going to be posted that day. They were posted that day, a little bit later in the day, so I made a spreadsheet. I'm not going to show you exactly what's on the spreadsheet just because I feel like that's a little maybe not a great thing to do too, not because there's anything bad on it, it's just, you know, these are real people and I'm kind of just making notes on my thoughts about them as people that I don't know. So that just feels weird to me, but I will tell you the different like things that I have on the spreadsheet. So in the first column, I have the author's name. Second column, I have the genres that they represent, which I just copied right off of the AMM wish lists. The next column, I have if they've been published or not. So all of these authors are agented. They all are agented, but not all have sold a book yet, technically. And that's not necessarily an indicator of if they are a bad or good writer. Absolutely not. That's just because of the way submission works. But I kind of wanted to just note that on my little spreadsheet right now. The next column is for their agent's name. This is mainly just for myself to familiarize myself with more agents in the industry. I know a few, but I haven't really researched agents in depth yet, so I'm just kind of like listing them here because cool, there's some people to add to my agent research spreadsheet whenever that time comes. The next column I have education. Some of them put some stuff in their bio about any degrees they have and what that's in, so I just kind of noted that here. Again, this isn't really something that is coming up in me making my final decisions. It's just kind of good context to have for who these people are, what they've done in writing and outside of it. The next column I have is for past mentorship / pitch contests that they've been in. So a lot of these people have been involved in AMM before, either as a mentee or as a mentor. And then a lot of them also talked about being involved in pitch wars, pitmad, different stuff that they've been involved with as a mentee or mentor. So I just kind of wanted to note that as a way to kind of see how experienced they are with stuff like this. That might be the kind of info that's a tiebreaker for me. It's not something that is going to be a key factor for sure in who I decide to submit to, but like if it's evenly split between two, I might rather submit to the person who has been involved with a mentorship program before versus the one who hasn't. The next column is labeled vibes. That's it. There is no rhyme or reason for what I put into this column. I kind of just, you know, sometimes you just get vibes, and not necessarily, I haven't got bad vibes from anyone. That's absolutely for sure, but sometimes you just start reading one of the mentors' profiles, or you like see them on Instagram, or you look at their website and you just kind of are like, I feel like we'd get along, or I feel like my book is pretty similar to stuff you like, that kind of thing. So I just kind of like put varying amounts of asterisks. And then the last column is just general notes about that mentor's profile, their wish list, all that kind of stuff. I went through every YA mentor and listed them on here with the genres that they have, if they're published, and what agent they have. But then once I did that, I kind of just selected the ones that don't apply to me genre-wise and hid them so that the only people I see are people who represent my genre. The other thing I also noted was who in the past as a mentor for AMM has taken on multiple mentees. So there are a few people who have taken on 2 mentees instead of 1, so I just kind of bolded their name. That's again not something that's really affecting my decisions, but it's just something to keep in mind. If there's a tiebreaker between 2 people, I'll probably go with the one who's taken on 2 in the past before, just because of odds, basically. And then the last thing I did on my spreadsheet is I went to the author name column, and for the people who I feel like would be a really good fit for my book, I highlighted their box in green. And then the people who I think might be a good fit for my book, I highlighted in yellow. And then I kind of narrowed it down from there to a top 4, which is absolutely still subject to change. I'm gonna go over the spreadsheet and their wish lists and all that sort of thing a few days before I actually go to submit. But for now, I do have a top 4, and I have a good feeling about all of them. I don't know if it'll actually change or not, but that's kind of how I went about narrowing down my submissions. Update number 2, where are we on revisions right now? So in my last check-in, I was working on chapter 8. I did in fact finish through chapter 9 that day, and then during the time that I was in Texas for Christmas, I worked on chapters 10 through half of 17-ish, so I got the 6.5 chapters that I wanted to done. 6 was kind of my bare minimum. 8 was kind of more my idealistic goal. So I didn't quite get to the 8, but I reached the bare minimum, which I'm happy with. I also, while I was at home, revisited my query and started my synopsis. I'll pull this guy back out again. I have a draft of my query that I like, but I need to, number one, find comps, because comps are my least favorite thing now. I didn't think that they would be this difficult, but apparently they are. I have some ideas, but you know, I'm still kind of trying to finesse that. I asked for some recommendations from some writing friends on what they thought might work as a comp, and shared my pitch with them so far so that they had kind of like a baseline to go off of. And I got a couple recommendations, so I need to read those books before I decide on what my comps are. That's the main thing that's missing from my query right now. Everything else I'm fairly happy with. I think I've finessed it in a way that makes it good and succinct. What I need to do is send this to people who have not read my book to see if it makes sense and if there's anything that confuses them, because these mentors have not read my book. So if there's anything confusing in this, then I need to change it and fix it. My query letter as a whole is 334 words, which is good. I think the suggested range is about 250 to 350, so I'm kind of about to start pushing that upper end, but it's partly because my book is a dual POV and I have to include both POVs in this query. So right now my query format is metadata / housekeeping stuff, which is like the comps, the word count, the genre, all that stuff. Then I have a paragraph from one character's POV, a paragraph from the other character's POV. Not like from, it's not written in first person, it's third person, but kind of discussing both characters. Third paragraph is both of them together, and then the last paragraph is just a sentence kind of on its own, and that's the stakes, just highlighting that. And then at the very end, I have my author bio, and thank you for your consideration, Leah Rummel. So that's my query so far and my plan for it. My synopsis, I think I said earlier in this vlog that the synopsis was supposed to be 1 page. Thank goodness it's not, because holy cow, I didn't realize I had so much to say. For AMM, it's supposed to be 2 to 3 pages. But my goal was to get it down to 2 pages, just because I just really want it to be as succinct as possible and as pared down as possible. For my own sake, for the mentor's sake, and also just to practice that skill of creating a succinct, short synopsis. So I've got it under 2 pages. We're at 1,386 words for it so far, and again, this is something that I just need to get some people who haven't read my book before to read, to get some notes on and see if everything makes sense. As for right now, I've been working on my revision ever since we got back from our little Christmas break vacation. I've finished chapter 21, so I'm working on chapter 22 today. My book is 35 chapters long, so I'm past the halfway point, which is so exciting. I'm on track. I think I'm on track. I was nervous at the beginning of this week because I was feeling like I was falling behind, you know, like I only did the bare minimum over Christmas, and I'm kind of losing any extra time I might have in January to kind of review my 50 pages, review my query synopsis. I'm gonna be cutting it close, but yesterday I pulled it out. I did like 4 chapters yesterday, man. The thing that I'm starting to think about is, for this draft, I'm rewriting the end. That presents a few things. Drafting is slower than revision, for me anyways. I have 5 chapters to scratch what I had before and rewrite them from scratch, which means I have 8 chapters left to revise and 5 chapters to rewrite. I listed out like everything I needed to do and broke it down by day, and if everything goes to plan, I should be finishing this draft on Monday, January the 10th, which is the week that submissions open. Makes me nervous. I'm cutting it maybe a little too close, but I think I can do it. And then what I can do after that is revisit the first 50 pages, submit, and then revisit Act 3 to kind of give it another polish and hope that it doesn't like suck compared to the rest of the book. And then if I do get a full request, I should be good with a fully written and revised once Act 3. Hello again. Okay. We're getting close. And I'm kind of freaking out. Update on my progress. I'm in chapter 30, so I have 35 total, which means I'm in the home stretch. We're definitely in Act 3 now. I'm currently at 76,960 words. Good. I think that's on pace for where I should be. My goal is to land somewhere between 85 and 90K, which I think is a solid number for this story. I think at first I was hoping to land closer to like 82. With the stuff that I've added and some of the world building that I really needed to flesh out in this draft, it is going to be impossible for me to do that. So we're shooting for that window. I also think that I firmly have my 4 mentors that I want to submit to narrowed down. There were 3 that I was pretty certain that I wanted to submit to, and then there was a toss-up between like 2 or 3 others for like that 4th spot. But what I did was I basically just made a pros and cons list for the mentors in not like them as people, because I have no idea who they are as people, like in what's on their mentor profile, what I think they could do for my draft essentially. Like for example, one of the cons on one of them was that we seem to have similar strengths, and so that's not really stuff that I need help on in my draft necessarily. But in the same vein, a pro for that person was also that we seem to have a similar way of thinking about things. Like the way that they were describing the way that they would give feedback and communicate some of that stuff, I was like, okay, that's exactly what I would like, please and thank you. So, you know, just a balancing act. And then I narrowed it down to the one to take that last 4th spot. So I have my 4 mentors, which is very exciting. Now every time I see like one of them post something on social media, I'm just like, you're going to be reading part of my book next week or the week after or whenever they get to it. I know they have a while to read stuff, but it makes me nervous. I fell so entirely way behind on AMM Party as well that I just kind of have stopped. I might this weekend like do a little catch up just so that I have like the rest of the topics, maybe skipping a few because there's some of them that I don't really need to answer. This countdown man is stressing me out. Stop stressing me out. I need to finish this. I can finish my draft. I know I have the time. I know I can do it. It's absolutely definitely doable. The problem is I don't know if I'm gonna have time to review my first 50 pages, which I really want to do, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the fact that I'm finishing like just barely in time will force me to just submit and not overthink everything that I've ever written in my entire life. I have a pretty solid query, I think, and then a decent synopsis, which I've given both of them to people who haven't read my book at all, trying to get some feedback on if it makes sense to someone who hasn't read my book. And there was definitely some stuff that people have pointed out that I needed to clarify, so I'm so glad that I did that. But I want to give the synopsis one more once over, and then I think we're good to go there. It's just nerve-wracking getting close. But then even after I submit, I'm not gonna know who gets picked for another like 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks are gonna be so long, man. I finished my revision. I could literally cry right now. I just feel like such a sense of relief. Like, I wasn't worried that I wasn't gonna get it done on time. I knew I was gonna get it done on time. My glasses are dirty. Hang on just a second. I think all of my anxiety for AMM was just kind of like all channeling into the goal of getting my revision done. And so now that it's done, my emotions are just going a little bit haywire. I'm feeling really excited because it means it's done. I'm gonna have a full manuscript fully ready for AMM, which I mean, I already had one, but because the end, I was rewriting it, I literally had to finish the end. It's not like I could just tack on a bit from my last draft and just be like, cool, that's my draft 3. No, I literally had to finish the end, otherwise the end would just simply not make sense because we jump from doing one thing to doing something completely different if I were to do that. Okay, breathe, Leah, breathe. So I finished it. I'm still, okay. I'm not 100% confident in the end. I'm definitely not like super excited in terms of thinking, wow, this is the greatest draft ever. I'm so happy with this. I love it. It's great because there's absolutely stuff wrong, especially just because the first 3/4 of the book are very much revised twice words. This is my second revision, and pretty much everything from the first half, there's not a ton that's like new in that section, so it's all been very polished. And then we get to Act 3, and it's just all of the first draft words I've vomited out over the past like week. I feel like it's a little bit jarring of a transition, but thankfully I do have some time to actually go back over what I've written in Act 3 to kind of polish it up as much as I can. The main thing was I wanted to make sure I got it done before I went back to work on my query and synopsis in first 50 pages, because those are the things that I need to submit tomorrow. Oh yeah, by the way, submission's open tomorrow, so that's the thing. Technically I have till Friday, but I really just want to wake up in the morning, sit down, answer all the application questions, and then submit, just so that I'm not like hyper fixating on it over the next 3 days. I know I just need to take my hands off and let it go. Nothing I can do in the next 3 days will make any sort of difference in like the quality of the work, because that's what I've been working on for the past like 2 months or month and a half, however long it's been. But yes, my plan now, I'm not looking at Act 3, period, end of story, the rest of the day. We're just not gonna do that. I'm tired of it, and I don't want to look at it anymore, because Act 3, I feel like, is always the thing, no matter what draft I'm on, I'm realizing, that triggers my imposter syndrome, and I just like don't want to do that right now. So what I'm gonna do is take another look at my query and synopsis, take another look at my first 50 pages, and try to just polish those as much as possible for the rest of the day. More than anything, I am so very excited to be stalking the AMM teasers hashtag on Twitter tomorrow for the people that I'm submitting to, but also just like everyone. Like, I'm so excited to see all the mentors' progress and like the stuff that they're gonna say and what they're reading and how they're liking it. Like, if it starts to make me too anxious, I'm just gonna mute it and not deal. But right now I'm just excited to see it, because I like knowing that people are reading things. I feel like whenever you submit something or like turn in an assignment or stuff like that, and then there's just kind of like nothing, you just kind of have to wait for the announcement or the grade or whatever, those are the times that make me more anxious than knowing like the progress of people are reading this, people are reviewing this. It's just that void of like not hearing anything. I think that would make me more anxious than reading the AMM teaser hashtag. Thank you for letting me just like word vomit all of those feelings onto you. I'm sorry. I feel like a hot mess today, honestly, but it's just part of the process. Okay, I've done it. I've submitted the stuff. I have a lot of emotions right now, and I'm fighting the urge to just go read over everything that I just submitted to make sure that there aren't any typos, because that's really counterproductive, because I've already submitted it, so there's really no point in looking, because if there are any typos, I can't fix it. So we're just gonna ignore all of that. Now it's just time to wait and hope and pray and see what happens. Time to go absolutely stalk the AMM teasers hashtag for the rest of my life. Okay, bye. The mentees have not been announced yet, but they should be being announced soon. I wish I had sat down to film this clip earlier, because I have not been doing so hot with feeling encouraged about AMM. The first weekend after submitting, I felt kind of crap about myself, to no fault of anyone else, obviously. I don't know. It wasn't like I was expecting to get a full request like the next day or the first weekend, but I kind of also was hoping to do that, you know, and I didn't. And I still haven't. And that's kind of why I'm feeling like I probably am not going to be getting into AMM round 9. And this is fine. Me right now have sort of worked through that a little bit more, and I've definitely come to terms with all of those emotions, but that's kind of why I wish I had filmed this earlier. I wish I had filmed something that was a little bit more in the midst of those emotions, because that's part of the journey, that's part of the process, and I don't want to gloss over that disappointment, you know, and the way that it doesn't necessarily make me feel like a failure, but it also kind of does, because I'm like, was my query not good? Were my pages not good? And going through that, especially when you're not the person who gets a full request right off the bat, or ever at all. Going through that is normal. That's like part of the process if you don't get picked. I'm not expecting to be picked. I've made peace with it, but I definitely was struggling there for a few days, or like that first week after submissions. I was obsessively checking hashtag AMM teasers on Twitter. I think that simultaneously contributed to me feeling worse about things, but also helped me because I think I mentioned this before. I liked seeing that there were things happening. I liked seeing that mentors were reading things and that the gears were turning behind the scenes, because I'd rather see the gears turning than just hear nothing and see silence. Hear silence, I guess, not see. See nothing, hear silence. Because if I saw nothing and heard silence, right now I would be in a very different state of mind. I would be hyping myself up to get picked this upcoming week, or, you know, be super nervous about it, and I would just be super on edge. But I don't know, seeing how everything was playing out has kind of helped me have that moment already, and then now I'm just kind of like, all right, what's the next thing that I can do? What's the next thing that I can work on? But that's where I'm at right now. I will check in with you after everything is announced, just to sort of wrap this video up and also kind of go over what I've learned during this process, because I have learned a lot actually, and whether I get picked or not, this definitely hasn't been a waste. Okay, welcome to the last update of this very, very, very long vlog. A few days ago, the official AMM picks were announced, and I, in fact, was not chosen for AMM round 9. Like I talked about in my last update, this isn't a surprise to me, and it's not something that is wrecking me right now. I was kind of expecting this, and I had definitely had some time to sort of like prepare myself and prepare working through my own emotions and expectations and blah, 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 blah about that. I did have one of the mentors who I submitted to reach out to me, kind of explaining why they didn't choose mine, and that was mainly just them not having an editorial vision for it, which again is totally fine. That's part of the program. You know, every mentor is gonna have their own taste, and every mentor is gonna have their own thing that speaks to them. My book just unfortunately was not one of those. But like I mentioned, I kind of wanted to wrap this vlog up talking about the things that I've learned during this process. The first and most obvious is to expect rejection. I think I kind of touched on this like early on in the vlog, but publishing is just like that. There's gonna be lots of times that I get rejected, and I gotta get used to it. And even though I was hoping to get picked for round 9, I can be grateful for not getting picked as well. I can be grateful for the rejection as well, because it's an opportunity to practice regulating my own emotions about that. It's an opportunity to practice finding the motivation and the belief in myself outside of other people's validation. I need to be the one who fully believes in my work, fully believes in my stories, because I'm the only person who I know for a fact is going to be there in the end. Agents are going to reject me, editors are going to reject me, readers are going to reject me, but I'm the one who needs to be solid in my own foundation on why I'm doing this, why I'm writing, and the ways that I take joy in that. The other thing that this experience sort of taught me wasn't really like a lesson that I didn't know before, but it put something into perspective for me. Something I've always known, or not always, but ever since I started getting into deciding that I wanted to write, deciding that I wanted to pursue traditional publishing, one thing that I've heard over and over again is that right now, young adult as an age category is a very saturated market, as in there are a lot of young adult authors trying to publish books, and therefore the competition is pretty high for young adult as an age category. And a step further than that, specifically young adult fantasy is extremely saturated at the moment. That's like the it genre right now, which as a reader, I'm here for. I love how many young adult fantasy books we've been getting in the past few years. As an author though, especially someone trying to break into the industry for the first time, that sort of means that I'm up against a lot more people. So I've already known this, you know, I've just kind of accepted the fact that I write in a very competitive market, but participating in AMM was really helpful in sort of putting numbers to that statistic. AMM obviously isn't representative of the publishing industry as a whole, but it's sort of a microcosm of that. and it was really interesting and enlightening to see the numbers on how many people submitted in what age categories and in what genres. So many people submitted young adult fantasy. The mentor that I submitted to with the least number of submissions had like 120 something submissions, and the mentor that I submitted to that had the most, I think had like 250 plus submissions, which is a lot of material to get through, and again, puts me up against a lot of other people. By contrast, I also saw how few people submitted middle grade books. Now, even in middle grade, fantasy was like the dominant genre. I think that kind of ties in with, you know, the young adult trend. In kidlit in genre, fantasy is hot right now. But I was seeing a lot of middle grade mentors talk about getting like 30 submissions or 60 submissions. Like, very few of them, if any, that I know of. I haven't researched all of them because it wasn't the section of AMM that I had my focus on, but very few of them, if any, broke 100 submissions. I think there were like 200 and something submissions total for middle grade for the whole program. Seeing how all that played out, seeing the numbers on young adult fantasy versus middle grade fantasy really helps solidify that fact that I've known about the market being saturated, and has sort of helped me make an informed decision about what I want to be working on next. I have been wanting to write middle grade for the past year now. I just haven't found the space to do that in my schedule because my focus has been on Project Shadows for so long. But this right now is like the perfect opportunity to work on a middle grade, and having those numbers and having this experience with AMM was like, I don't know, just the perfect thing to happen to give me the motivation to switch to something new, try something different, and also feel good about that as a like career savvy decision, if that makes sense. This doesn't mean that I'm giving up on Project Shadows, like by no means. Right now I have it sent to some people to beta read, so while Project Shadows is away getting some more feedback, I'll be switching gears to a middle grade next. So all that to say, AMM was absolutely not a waste of time for me. It gave me a really great deadline to finish revision 2 of Project Shadows. It was a great like stepping stone. It was a great experiential thing to kind of learn how I'm going to react to rejection in publishing, because I know I'm going to be facing that in the future. And it gave me a little bit more context and a little bit more info on how I want to go about my writing career going forward. If you are thinking about submitting to AMM next year, obviously you'll have to wait a whole year, but if you're thinking about it, I definitely would recommend, or any other mentorship program. At the very least, it will be experience, even if you get rejected. That is all I have to say. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about my experience with AMM or about AMM in general. I would love to chat about that. I hope this super crazy long vlog was at the very least entertaining, if not helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye!